adorable.
Yeah. Okay, let's get this rolling. I almost want to say, Happy New Year!
The cycle begins anew.
I mean, you
What?
can. I mean, it's the first one of the year.
Well, I did.
Oh, you did.
So
Okay.
this is Saz.
See?
And the little birdie he's got in his hand sits in his afro. The whole game.
Proof that none of the game designers were black.
It's Square Enix. Do you expect anything less?
I mean, I don't really know.
I mean, they're
enough
Japanese.
about them.
Probably.
So, yeah, probably a sum total of 0 black people in the game studio. But you never know. Who knows?
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Let's get it started. What's everyone reading?
Which direction are we going?
Pick a direction.
Let's see. I'll start. I am reading. Hold on.
Wait, this is a new year. Who are you?
What? Oh yeah, I'm Andy. Your AKA your fearless
Dungeon Father.
Dungeon Daddy.
Oh, God.
Daddy of the dungeon.
Right.
If you prefer.
And I'll pass it to Grant, AKA Lord Ish, and then we have Erin, our Supreme Overlord. Say hi, Erin. That's her Velociraptor. And then Tony, AKA the Mouth from the South.
Hello. What are you reading?
Tony's rolling their eyes and going, why do I work with these humans?
Someone's reading a book that I recommended. I'm reading. Because I couldn't remember the author's name. I'm reading right now Karma of the Sun.
Oh, yeah.
By, I really need to look up how to say their name appropriately. I can obviously say Brandon, but Brandon Ying Kit Boy.
I don't know. I'd have
Butchering it. If I'll tag you in it, and you can shame me, Brandon. I'm open to being shamed. Ring a bell. This is a mid-apocalyptic story in which the world is kind of ending. There have been 6 solar, they call them in the story, they call them the suns, and there have been 6 of them. And when the 7th sun arrives, humanity's gone. In fact, the only remaining remnants of civilization live on the Tibetan plateau because it's, up in the Himalayas, it's high enough. And the protagonist, Karma, his father, 10 years prior to the beginning of the book, has gone missing. And of course, there's been some stigma attached to his father's departure. There's been shame, like, what's wrong with him? Where did he go? He abandoned his, this child and this wife. And the emperor of this remaining, land comes to them and say, okay, hint, it's not exactly what you think. We think he was on a mission for us, and we think he found something. We just can't get to him right now. We need to get your father so he can help us survive the oncoming calamity.
Right.
And that's what I'm reading, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it.
What's the name of that that mythical hidden land in Tibet, or is it Siddhartha, or is it Agartha, something like that?
That's the name of. That's the name of
Siddhartha's
Buddha.
That's
he became.
Buddha.
Oh, never mind. I'm trying to see it.
I mean, I'm thinking Kathmandu or something.
Something like that.
Shangri-La?
I don't know, but Shangri-La, yeah.
Shangri-La.
But the fact that the last habitable place on Earth was in the Tibetan, so that was kind of what brought it up.
It's pretty neat. I'm really enjoying it. It has tonally. It reminds me a little bit of The Alchemist. If anyone has read that book before.
The Paulo Coelho book.
Thank you. I can never say the name correctly.
I've heard very mixed things on that.
That one.
Yeah. It seems to be a
I
thing
have
that it seems to be a thing that if you read it at a certain age, it's really good and can change your life. And then if you read it past that,
a bit like
The
Catcher in the
Alchemist.
Rye.
The Alchemist?
No,
I've
that's
never
just
read
always
it in my
bad.
entire life.
Catcher in the Rye is always bad. The
Never read
Alchemist.
that either.
I read it a couple of years ago, and it was very. This is a more developed, mature story than The Alchemist. I remember, but there's a certain journey aspect. Once I get to the end, I'll give another comparison. But I really kind of enjoyed this weird, whimsical story that was in The Alchemist. That's here too.
Sure. Yeah.
But who's next?
Interesting. Pick a direction.
Yeah.
That away.
Oh, God.
Oh my God.
Tony, go.
Oh, okay. So I'm reading a few things. I'm reading in the world of nonfiction. I'm reading a book called 13 Ways of Looking at the Novel by Jane Smiley, which is a book I read like 14 years ago or something like that. And I realize now that I'm rereading it again for the first time that it must have been the thing that sparked my interest in literary criticism. Even though it's not, I wouldn't call it, well, it is, I guess it is a work of literary criticism. It's just more readable than most works of literary criticism because it's written by a novelist and not by a professor. But basically, she sort of is going in and talking, because she she read 100 novels in I think it was in a year, because she got stuck right after 9/11 happened in the middle of a novel, and she was like, what is the use, what is the point, whatever. And because she's not entirely a nihilist, she was like, all right, I have to find a reason for why I'm feeling this way. So she put down the pen and read 100 novels and then wrote this book.
Fair.
Yeah, it's pretty, and it's interesting because she engages with, like, the chapter 1, which I read this morning, is called What is a Novel? And she just literally breaks it down and is like, all right, here's what you need in order to write, in order to call something a novel. And just, that's it. And it's nice because it reads really well, and it's a nice toolkit, I think, for any writer who's finds the effort of writing a novel to be too big. She just sort of, without trying to give you tools, she just says, well, this is what a novel is, period. And you're like, oh, okay, cool, I can do that. That's manageable. The other things that I'm reading, I'm listening to Toni Morrison read me The Bluest Eye, which is, because I've been thinking about it a lot lately, so I thought, I'm going to read that again. And it's much easier having someone read you that book, because it's not all in your head, and it's much funnier having read it the first time. Like, the first time it was, it's a searing work of importance, blah, 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 which it is. But this time around, knowing everything, it's a scream. Like, it's so funny.
Who narrates it?
Toni Morrison.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. Oh, and she's fantastic.
Good?
She's so good. I mean, I knew she was good already because she's read Beloved to me, but, like...
To you personally, right?
No, not to me personally, but in the...
No, I'm just imagining
like
you fall asleep and she pulls up next to your nightstand and says, Toni, just close your eyes. I've got this.
Be really scary, actually. I think I'd stop breathing. And then the other thing that I'm physically reading, I'm sort of, I wouldn't say taking a break from it, but I haven't picked it up in a few days. It's a book called The Private Joys of Nena Maloney by Okechukwu Inzalu. Got it. So, you don't know how much it drives me nuts when I'm watching, because I research writers, and panelists will go, Okechukwu, and I'm like, that is not how there's a W there, okay? It's Okechukwu. Say it right.
Can I just say that it evoked memories of the Wakanda Forever when you have Jabari M'Baku say, Kukulkan!
Exactly. It just...
The way he gets an Oscar for just saying the name.
Yeah, he does. But no, it's a great book. It's a story of a mom and a single mom and her teenage daughter, who the teenage daughter has just received news that she is being recommended by her teacher to go to this really cool school in France to learn how to speak French from the French. Mm-hmm. And the mom, white mom, black biracial daughter, the mom freaks out for no godly reason, and so you spend the book sort of, it has a really kind of interesting structure where you have the present day with the mom and the daughter, and then one of the mom's friends, who was actually one of the dad's friends, who's gay and black and trying to figure out what that all means in 2009 Britain. And then you go back in the past, and there are scenes between the mom and her, and the dad, and so that sort of clues you in on what their relationship was like and what was going on and whatever. So it's a really interesting book. It's very funny, very light. So those are the things I'm reading.
Woo!
Yeah, that's going on. Grant, what are you reading?
Well, speaking of 9/11.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I did mention that.
Oh,
It's just
there's a connecting
Yeah, there is.
issue.
Yeah, I did.
So.
I did mention it.
I'm reading Shadow Bond by Steve Erickson. It's just a classic tale. I think it's a story we've all heard. The two towers of the World Trade Center, they reappear in the desert in the near future.
Because of course they do.
Of course, people take note of that, and then within the towers themselves is the stillborn brother Jesse of Elvis Presley.
What's this book called?
Shadow Bond. Like Autobahn, but Shadow Bond.
Wrong with carry on.
But yeah, no, that's the basic premise. It's in a near future where there's been kind of another civil war, and there's like certain no-go zones, where you just don't go if you're. Anyways, so it's interesting. There's music is a big part of it. Each chapter is separated and named as if it's it's another song and a thing. I have a whole conspiracy theory about it that I told Andy.
Yeah,
which I can get to. I can get into if you want me to, but I don't have to.
Okay.
Which is fitting for a book about.
I mean, I kind of want to know
the Twin
now.
Towers, but
having a conspiracy theory about, of course,
yeah.
Yes.
I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
I feel like I would like the prose to either be more flowery or more sparse or spare.
Like one or the other.
Yeah, like as it is now. Like everything's really interesting, and there are cool turns of phrase and stuff. But I feel like it could do some. Like the writing itself could stand out.
It's a little stale.
Yeah, that's just maybe I just haven't gotten into the groove of the writer. But
yeah. Some writers can be awkward because the idea is great and that's what they write on.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll see. I'm not super far into it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And there's a lot of different characters to follow, which is also interesting.
Oh, nice. Okay, so that could also explain the flatness of the prose.
Who knows? Yeah. I'm not reading it now, but I did read Steppenwolf by Herman Hesse.
Yeah, how was that?
I really liked it.
Speaking of public domain.
Yeah.
Wait, is that in the book?
Yeah, that is public domain now.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed it,
Okay.
especially for something from like the 1920s.
Yeah.
It feels very modern.
Ooh, okay. Well, those Germans.
Yeah, those Germans.
Their literature's great.
Yeah, it's just like one guy's kind of psychic journey through, his life and
that
the
seems to
culture
be a
of the
very
time.
big theme with all of his books. By
It
the
does,
way.
yes. But it's done in an interesting way. Like there's certain sections that feel more dreamlike than others, and then it ends up in a really interesting place. He meets some historical figures in these sections and stuff. That those interactions are pretty interesting.
Okay.
It kind of alternates between being extremely depressing and like there's some hope for finding meaning and whatnot. And outside of that, I've slowly been building a library of philosophy books, and I've been jumping around a lot.
Oh, that's fun.
I just read through a lot of William James's stuff,
Oh,
pragmatism
okay,
and
sure.
stuff.
Yeah.
And I find the pragmatic idea of truth really interesting. Like it's not a set thing, but it's what is useful.
Yeah.
Basically. It's not quite to like pure relativism, but it's interesting.
Yeah, I kind of want to go back in time and stab him in the throat for inspiring Ursula Le Guin to write that story that I hate.
Which one is that?
Yeah.
The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas. Everyone reads that story. Everyone loves that story. They're like, it's so deep. I'm like, it is not. It's not even a story. It's her literally giving you a bunch of flowery language and asking you a really surface, stupid question, which is, do people have to suffer in order for us all to be happy? Well, of course they do. Welcome to planet Earth. That's not deep.
I only know that story from the BTS song Spring Day because it's used as a reference.
That's funny.
And that's the only reason that I know what it is, and a lot of people like a lot of K-pop stans only know that story because of that music video. And if I didn't know the music video storyline, I wouldn't know that it existed.
Like, I love Ursula, but come on.
Was she actually influenced by William
So
James?
the story came from a question that William James proposed, which was basically, if there was one human being, and he was sort of using Christ as an example of this, but like, if there was one human being upon whom we hung all of our suffering, but say that human being was a child, would we if we knew about it, like actually saw it, would we be able to accept it? If our lives were perfect, but except for that one thing, and that was the only thing that we
I have so many answers to that question that I literally cannot give.
And so she basically, I mean, that's what she writes the story. You end up finding, this is not a spoiler, people. Come on, it's been out forever. But basically, you know, she lays out this utopia, and then deep hidden somewhere in a corner that nobody looks, behind a really tiny door in a super dark hall, is a child full of suffering, just completely suffering. And you just think, yeah, welcome to sweatshops. Like, I mean, I don't. It's terrible. I don't mean to sound blasé about it, but it's like, the whole world has run on slavery for how many hundreds of years? Did you really need to ask that question? Did you need to waste my time?
Just listen to that Bo Burnham song.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, like,
it's Sacco.
Yeah, right. It wastes less time. It's far more interesting. I'm sorry. I'm Aaron.
No.
What are you reading?
Really quick, I did want to make a plug for Herman Hesse because you referenced Siddhartha.
Yeah,
that's
probably
a
why.
good one.
That's
that
probably
is
why
a
it was
good
in
one.
my
I actually read that one.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It was pretty
That
interesting.
was a good
It's
one.
on my shelf. At home.
Damien's also a pretty good one too.
Damien. Okay.
But I only know that one. Also because of BTS music video.
Do they have a thing for Herman Hesse?
No, they just have a thing for like
philosophy, maybe.
No, they they do actually.
Interesting.
They're part of a UNICEF thing.
One more thing.
tracks.
Philosophy.
That's kind of cool.
Michael Schur, the writer of The Good Place, producer of The Good Place, because he had to study intensely so much philosophy in order to write a smart philosophical show such as The Good Place, he decided to put together a book. I mean, he cites, he references, he talks about all the established philosophers throughout the ages, but it's a fun book, and I fully recommend it as an audiobook because it's narrated him, a couple of his colleagues that he worked with to study, and the full cast of the main cast of The Good Place.
Yeah.
So
you're really gonna love Mary Lee then, because they're all philosophy students, and
I'm in that mode right now.
Yeah, they're gonna. You'll get a lot of information because literally every episode is a teacher, usually the same one, presenting, because she's the ethics professor, so she presents an ethical dilemma, and throughout the rest of the episode, they're sort of all explicating this dilemma, and it's fascinating.
Do you want to tell the audience about the opening shot?
I can only say that it has to do with peaches.
Just
carry on.
scrumptious,
Hold on, let's get the conch.
Scrumptious peaches.
Here's the conch, Aaron.
There's also water involved.
I got the conch.
What are you reading?
I feel like that's a whole Lord of the Flies reference right there, by the way. So
absolutely
thank you.
is.
I love that.
That was a SpongeBob reference.
No, but it could be.
That's where
but...
SpongeBob took it from. Yes,
Yeah.
by proxy. Yes.
Anyways, 3 things. I'm playing Genshin Impact. I decided to take that plunge. And it actually does have a storyline because, I just keep seeing advertisements for it, and I just keep going, "What is this about?" There is a storyline, by the way, which is very interesting. You and your brother, or you and your sister, it depends on who you decide to choose as the main character, which I regret life because I chose the girl character, and now I'm having gender envy, and I want to go for the male character.
This is the one you were telling me about. Yeah.
You are separated from your sibling, and you're on a mission to find them. Plot twist, good luck.
Well, it wouldn't be much of a game if it was easy to find them.
But it's fantastic. I actually really enjoy it.
Oh, good.
I'm watching Bungo Stray Dogs right now, which is an anime. Which
I've heard
nobody
that.
told me about this until I literally just looked up how to pronounce one of the characters' names. But all of the characters are named after Japanese writers. All of the main characters are all Japanese writers.
That's cool.
Which I thought was really cool, but there's the main character, Atsushi. He is an orphan, and he is on the run from his orphanage after he's turned 18. And he's on the run from a tiger, which has been ransacking everything, and he thinks that the tiger is after him, because everywhere he goes, this tiger is attacking things in the middle of the night, and he just doesn't understand why. And so
it's like Life of Pi, but violent.
Plot twist, he's the tiger, and he turns into a tiger underneath the full moon, and he doesn't realize it.
Why did I not see that coming?
So
That's
a
literally...
tiger?
I was going to say, that's
he's
literally the werewolf
tiger.
plot. Duh, how did I not see that?
He saves a guy from drowning who actually wanted to drown, but that's a whole other thing.
It is. It's Life of Pi, but violent.
How rude. Why didn't you just let him drown?
And so he's part of a detective agency with his friend, and they're actually looking for the tiger right now to stop him from ransacking everywhere, and that leads to Atsushi joining into the detective agency. And this is about, he has this huge like $7 or $8 billion like bounty over top of his head, and so now he's trying to learn how to control his weird tiger abilities while also trying to help solve crimes. And there's a mafia involved who is very much like a Team Rocket, and it's fantastic. We stand. I'm only one season in. There's 4 seasons because season 4 just dropped yesterday, so that's
very
fun.
Nice. Okay.
And then book-wise, I'm reading Solo Leveling, which is actually a webtoon, and I didn't realize it until I opened up the back of the book and looked at the Verso page. So congratulations, me. And it's about a kid whose name, I think his name is Jinwoo. I just keep calling him Sung because that's his last name. It's Jinwoo. And he is a hunter, and hunters basically go into dungeons that are in real life, and they go and they complete the dungeon, and they get rewards. So it's basically like dungeon crawling, obviously.
Right.
And they go into a dungeon, and they complete it, and then they realize that there's a second dungeon inside, which is very rare, so they're like, okay, let's just go do it anyways. Plot twist, bad idea, and now he all of a sudden gets like gamer powers where he has like this like screen that pops up to him and goes, you have to complete these daily tasks. And he's like, well, what happens if I don't complete these daily tasks? I'm in the hospital. And it literally knocks him out and forces him to go in the desert and be on the run from like desert sandworms and monsters for like 4 hours straight while he's injured at the same time, and it's hilarious. And that's only book 1. I'm ordering the next 2 tomorrow.
Nice.
That's what I'm doing.
Nice. I like it.
But anyways, speaking of public
9/11?
domain.
9/11.
Oh, God, again.
I know, again. No.
We follow
What's
each
that?
other.
What is that Family Guy reference?
Following each
Wait,
other.
I don't know.
That's
Where
really
she's
sweet.
like speaking in front of she's trying to get elected, and she just says 9/11.
9/11.
And everybody starts clapping.
Yay!
Oh, yeah.
I wish that worked here. So.
I really don't. Because... No.
Okay.
So was anyone going to tell me that putting on the Ritz, the words and music composition for the song are in public domain now, or was I just supposed to find that out from a Book Riot article about public domain?
I think your question answers itself because that's where you found it.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know this.
Maybe we should change the theme song to Putting on the Ritz.
I mean, listen,
I do like Make Believe Fred.
if you can find a recording of it, because sound recordings aren't in public domain yet, like the original sound recording is not, but the music and the composition are. So that means anybody can take that music now and they can record it for themselves.
Without.
We'll just
Yeah.
record a cover. So.
Well, it's like
we could.
It's like the theme, the Maple Leaf Rag. Kevin MacLeod was the composer, arranger, and musician who put it online for us to use. And
Even though he wasn't the composer of the piece.
arranger. Sorry, thank you.
Yeah.
But no, there's quite a few people online that will do that. Stuff comes out and in waves. They'll perform it and then record it and make it available for people to use.
How is it that they're able to do that? What is the operating principle that makes such a thing possible?
Copyright.
For before we can fully explain public domain,
Yes.
we have to understand copyright.
Okay.
Copyright. The
What-
bane of everyone's existence.
What is it without becoming a copyright law professor?
Do not turn to us for legal advice. If you're seeking out any kind of copyright, intellectual property, anything official, we are not your go-to people.
Although I did hear from a judge once that step 1, mail it to yourself, because that immediately copyrights the material if it's intellectual property. It doesn't keep the copyright if for too long, but you will have to go. But
Yeah.
This will be fun to learn about in my actual intellectual property class this semester that I'm taking.
Yes,
okay.
But anyway, what is copyright?
Just about every original creative piece of work is subject to intellectual property. It's a type of intellectual property that is subject to copyright law.
Yes.
And it recognizes a creator's right to dictate the course of expression their work can take. So, and just for time frame, which we'll talk a little bit more about, because I learned something new via backroom conversations.
Oh, yeah.
The general idea is that when, say, I write a book today, I publish it, I mail it to myself, and I register my novel, it's under copyright protection for the life of me, plus 70 years.
Well, if you were in the UK.
Right. However, I just learned today that in America, it's life of the creator plus 95 years. Thank you, House of the Mouse.
I was just going to say, and why is it that low?
Literally Mickey Mouse. Yeah, because the rights for Mickey Mouse were going up in, I believe it was the 80s, although it might have happened also again in the 90s, because it happened twice.
Right.
And now you can do this. Anyone can do this. Anyone can contest copyright law.
Yeah.
So they did. And what it takes to contest copyright law is you have to make a bid to Congress. And only Congress can make an exception. Congress voted to make an exception not once but twice, which is why it all got pushed back 95 years.
It's almost like being a massive, powerful corporation helps you in that.
In
that pursuit.
I think it is. I think ire over this kind of makes me laugh because I'm like, listen, people, they had the money, they had the acclaim, they had a reason. When your founder grew up the way that their founder did and made something of his life with that particular figure. Now, if it was, Beauty and the Beast or some other character that they didn't even come up with, it came from folklore, that's a different story. But he not only made that character up himself, but made something of that character and made history by making the longest animated short in the history of animation at that time, which is why we even know who the guy is. They took advantage of all of that and went to court. Congress was the one who said yes.
Right.
Did it help that it was Walt Disney? Of course it did. But I feel like giving them ire over this particular thing is kind of like,
I'll give them ire over anything.
Yeah, there's much more than we could be mad about. I still have my Disney Plus subscription though, so I'm not that mad.
I can't cite the documentaries I've watched on copyright and intellectual properties like over the years, but copyright law was originally drafted and created to protect the creator. Now,
of course,
and their work, which it makes sense.
Yeah.
But there are entities out there who if take it to this nth degree of enforcing copyright law. Listen to that note in that song. It sounds like so similar to what this artist over here has created that in some shape or form it stifles creativity just a little bit. There's some things out there that clearly do not if you and I were to watch it, we're like no, or listen to it or read it, no, that's totally not inspiration from what this, but it clogs up so many court proceedings.
Sure.
Which I get the idea behind it, but I feel like there have been, and this documentary expresses a little bit more. I need to find it and send it to you guys.
That's interesting.
I have to reach out to a professor who made us watch it a number of years ago.
Yeah.
Just hey, point me in the direction. But it's so wonderful, and I see someone raising their hand.
Yeah, hi. I randomly Googled things because you mentioned it was the Mickey Mouse that did the thing.
Yeah.
It happened in 1998.
It was 98, okay.
It was 98, and it's called the Mickey Mouse Protection Act,
It is
or the
called
Copyright Term Extension Act,
That's
or the
right.
Sonny Bono Act.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
And the term is... So, it extends the terms of life of the author plus from that plus 7 years, which was the original.
Yes.
And for works of corporate authorship to 120 years after creation or 95 years after publication, whichever end is earlier.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. Yeah, see, copyright law is...
law is weird, and I only know about
ridiculous.
it because Oscar Wilde exists, and that's all I know.
Yep.
Oscar Wilde, yeah,
That was a fun one.
That was a thing. So, not a sidebar, but, kind of a sidebar. You were talking about... Oh, yeah. So, sidebar. I love... that Pharrell and what's his name got sued for blurred lines. I loved that.
Yeah.
Because that song is disgusting. So thankfully that was one case of copyright law in which, they had to pay up some money. It was great. However, question. To what degree do you think public domain frees creativity?
That's actually not one to which I can easily answer a question. Maybe others can.
You mean opens it up?
Yes, what?
Well,
why? I'm a fan of the principle. I'm curious.
It's kind of a
Depends.
discussion we started having back there a little bit. Like you can use the Steamboat Willie eventually. What was it? When is it? A year or two?
You can use Steamboat Willie now.
Okay, we can
Mickey
use it now.
Mouse you will be able to use next year.
But
Only the original
yeah,
Mickey Mouse. You
first
can't-
Mickey
yeah.
Mouse, not Steamboat, but the one after Steamboat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if it really enhances creativity per se. I'd say it increases what creativity we can see
Yeah,
and what
because
can
if
get published.
if
Because you can write whatever
yeah.
you want at home.
if you really think about it though, like especially like with like so like with Putting on the Ritz, the composition being out, with Agatha Christie's for one of her books being put on
Yeah, it's the
public
fifth.
domain.
It's the fifth one.
Yep.
The Poirot mysteries.
And with
yeah.
the case of Sherlock Holmes stuff coming that's now in public domain, which means a majority of his stuff is in public domain in the United States
yeah,
now.
majority of Sherlock Holmes. Yeah.
This is where we see a lot of like, this is I think, in my opinion, kind of where fan fiction really comes into play now, because a lot of like people who like write it like really can't do anything with that, but now that those items are in public domain, anybody who has written like fan fiction works about those certain Agatha Christie novels or those Sherlock Holmes novels, because I know there's probably plenty out there.
Oh, sure.
You can see a lot of those more come into play in like the public sphere now with being published and people being able to take those characters and do things with them that they might not have been able to do before, or use stories that they might not have been able to use before as reference or inspiration without legally having to like attribute that author every single time monetarily, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
And like now with like the Putting on the Ritz, like the composition and the music actually being in public domain now, along with another list of like there's a whole slew of swing songs which are now like
Yeah.
in public domain now as well.
Yeah.
Like they can use that now in more sample terms for music, and we'll probably see a lot of that come into play with a lot more music that's going to come out either by like amateur third party like creators or people who are like starting to sample those works, and we might see more sampling of them in the future in like popular songs. We just don't know, but like that's kind of a way that it frees like the creativity kind of. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm divided
Like
on.
I can understand like why it might not free things, but I can understand also from
I think
somebody who's chronically online and in the fan fiction spheres, I can see where it clears up some legalities, because
sure.
they now don't have to attribute under the copyright law, under every single disclaimer of whatever chapter they're writing, saying, hey, I don't own this. They can go, this is under public domain now, I can write about it and not feel any type of fear that I'm going to be.
I mean, it's something that I mean you see all the time with let's take Shakespeare for an example, who's he's been in the public domain forever, and it is fascinating when someone brilliant takes a piece of Shakespeare and turns it into something
else.
brilliant. I mean, King Lear. Good God, the number of people modern novelists who've taken King Lear and just
gone to town
and been like, Shakespeare was a man, and write from the perspective of the women because they themselves are women who love Shakespeare, and they're just like, wait a minute, but these girls are way more interesting, and and also that's a formal shift because when Shakespeare was writing, the play was the thing, and that's why he used it. Novels were not in fashion. Now that we're living in a time where novels are the fashion of literature, you're able to do different things because the restraints of the play are freed by the restraints of the novel, whatever
and you
those
see
are.
that now too with Great Gatsby was in public domain last year, and
Yeah.
I realized that like nobody really cares for it, but like it opened up a whole slew of
sorry.
What have we seen?
There's
Have we
been
seen
so
that
much. Oh, there was a whole
Yeah,
wave.
no, there's a wave.
There was a whole wave, yeah. And
Like I knew something was coming
Like,
out at the time, but like, I
I
don't
knew
know
that,
what
like,
else.
oh yeah, there was a whole
Nick
wave.
came out, which was like from
Nick
like
was the- yeah.
that was the big one, and it was like from the perspective of Nick from The Great Gatsby instead of.
Despite the fact that the book is literally from his
But it's
perspective.
like you get the idea.
It's I think
I also
in that
don't
case,
read The Great Gatsby all that
but in
much,
that
so.
case, I feel like it's less creative. You're taking a character that was invented for a novel and writing
A novel.
a novel
It's like
that's not
putting headcanon
like,
to...
Right, but if you take Moby Dick and you turn it into a 5-hour play, I'm leaning back in my chair a little bit. I'm like, okay, go ahead. Yeah. And you think about it in a college production, right? You're a college student, you're a Lin-Manuel Miranda, but you're never going to become a Lin-Manuel Miranda. I mean, whatever. And you write this play, this 5-hour play, and you convince one of your professors to stage it, and your school is now able to stage and sell tickets of this thing that you have spent effort and creativity transforming. That's where I feel like the public domain really creates a new energy. But like taking a novel character and writing a novel, I'm like, well, what are you...
They're writing fan fiction.
Or like someone,
they're writing fan fiction but publishing it.
Honestly, listen, if you think that you're gonna like
Granted,
be a little
that's
playwright,
a lot of books right now.
if you're gonna be a little playwright and write a play, and you're gonna base your play off of a Shakespeare play,
there is...
I mean, you can do interesting things, but you gotta be. I mean, Toni Morrison writing Desdemona. You know what I mean? Like that's
yeah,
like
use it as a jumping off point or a skeleton or something.
Yeah, I mean, do something brave. Like with her, like, just as use this as an example, she was asked to do something with Othello, and she said, "I'll do it on one exception. I'm taking Iago out." And they were like, "Wait, you can't do that. He's literally the whole play." She's like,
"I can do what I want."
She's like, first of all, he shouldn't be the whole play. It's called Othello, but everybody wants to spend time with Iago. Get rid of him. What else is left? And that's an interesting thing, and I think that the public domain allows us to do those things, to even have the thought exercise. I am just a little concerned that in a market that is already overstuffed with stupid original ideas, that you give people freedom. I mean, think about this. Yeah. Exercise this with me now for a moment. It's not going to happen until we're all dead.
Yeah.
But imagine the day that Star Wars becomes public domain.
Oh, I was thinking Harry Potter becomes public domain because that's gonna be.
I mean,
we already have a whole fan in for Boomerang.
You know what I mean? Like, imagine that day. Like, that is going to be I will be gratefully dead.
I'm glad.
I can't do it.
You just made me almost eager for my eventual demise.
I can't. I mean, it's that kind of thing that I'm just like, I don't want to be here for that. However,
I'm gonna be haunting from my grave just to watch it happen.
I will probably send this to you this to you guys in the Meep Thorpe chat, because there's a wonderful lecture that is actually an opening address, but by China Mieville at I think it's in Edinburgh, but I can't remember the name of the festival, and it's back in 2014, and he gives this this glorious speech in which he says, he sort of takes down the idea of copyright because he's trying to help generate an idea of who deserves to get paid for what and why does that payment have to look the way that it looks. And he basically says the reason that publishers are able to be in publishing and make publishing work the way that they want it to is because of the copyright rule. Only one person can get paid at a time for an original work. What if you just squashed all of that and you just had writers for hire, the kind of, in the way that we are library people for hire? You get a check for doing the work, you clock in for 8 hours, all of that kind of stuff. What if that was how we did things, so that if Andy publishes an incredible book, suddenly you have remixes of the book because there are other people who go, oh, I can do better than that. And they write, it, but smaller. Just to see what it would look like.
This is the book if this person starts talking.
Right, or like,
this is the person if you gave him a gun.
Imagine Stephen King can't do stream of consciousness. We know this, right? Well, what if a genius of stream of consciousness takes the exact same idea and makes a stream of consciousness version of Pet Sematary? Like, it deprioritizes the creative as this genius, as this novelty, as this wonderful, special, it makes us less hierarchical because, listen, I'm not all that great just because I'm creative and good at it. Like, so, I know it sounds a little ridiculous, but it's kind of like, but think about it, really. If Emeril Lagasse, makes a fantastic Alfredo, what does that mean? Gordon Ramsay can't make the same Alfredo? Maybe he can't sell it without calling it Emeril's, but even that is kind of ridiculous. So what? It's food. Everyone should eat it. I don't know. Anyway, there's my...
That's a whole nother discussion. Like, that example, like, it's fun.
Food in the public domain. Who would have imagined it?
Like, I'm going to make a Cheddar Bay biscuit, but I'm not going to call it the Cheddar Bay biscuit. I'm going to call it the
cheesy bun.
Cheesy Gulf biscuit.
But no, imagine if you had to do more than that. Imagine
Yeah.
if you came up with something that enhanced the flavor of it, but in order to even sell it, you had to go through an intensive legal process to prove that it wasn't an idea you stole from Red Lobster.
Well,
like what?
That's the idea I was talking about early in the podcast, where I mean it was meant to protect one thing, but like some organizations, and I bet it's more like the estates and the companies after the fact. Like
it is.
Original creators probably didn't give too
well,
and not as many.
It's because
not as
Molly
many.
Sue wants mommy's money.
Right. But yeah, so it's the same little thing. Like you can have, there's.
I mean, but I think creatives can be. I mean, creatives are usually very touchy about these kinds of things. Particularly, I've noticed that with UK creatives in particular. Agatha Christie killed Poirot because she loathed the fact that... So, there's a dividing line with Sherlock Holmes content.
Yes.
There's the before he died and there's after he died.
Yes.
Almost every person that I know who has read Sherlock Holmes extensively hates the after he died because you can feel the difference. And Agatha Christie was a main champion of that. She was like... She hated the after the Sherlock Holmes stuff because the only reason he brought him back is because he couldn't make money writing anything else. He tried, and so he was like, well, I guess I can figure out a brilliant way to bring Holmes back because I'm starving.
There's quite a bit of, like, there's stuff out there, like, I like the original trilogy, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, Kick the Hornet's Nest, Played with Fire. I like them, and I did read the next few, and they gave me that fix. But I don't care for them as much as the original. Or Robert Ludlum is another example. I love the Jason Bourne trilogy, an opening trilogy. But there are two different people who have picked the banner for that one. Lagerkrantz,
yeah, David
and Lustbader.
Oh yeah.
I think also. Or maybe
really? Did he?
Wait, he might have been doing the.
He's
blending.
doing Bourne stuff. Yeah.
But they have. Lustbader I think does the Stieg Larsson.
No, Lustbader does Bourne. And then Lagerkrantz does.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's been a while since I've read either, just because I haven't liked them as much. But
But on the flip side, there are some properties that make themselves open to this kind of thing. I don't think there's going to be any problem when the original Batman issues go up for, and I will be alive for that, and I will be writing, because it's, I mean the comics arena. That's what it's there for.
Yeah.
One of the big dangers of the current, the MCU and its ilk, is that these massive corporations, DC and Warner Brothers, all these, they have such a tight control over creative properties that we're always loosey-goosey and flexible. If you could come up with a good enough reason to kill Batman and resurrect him in your arc, then they'd let you do it, because they were interested in you as the writer. They were like, okay, what can Jeff Johns bring to Batman that Frank Miller couldn't? Not much, but still. Yeah. What
did you see the smirk open up with that?
Yes, I did. Oh, God, yes. The New 52, for example, they wanted to see, well, what can we do with the New 52? And you see the writers of, I'm watching Young Justice right now, so this is all in my brain. You see what the Young Justice is doing, where they literally are taking every Justice League character and yoinking them into this massive universe and making a 4-season arc that once you've seen all 4 seasons and then you go back and start at the beginning, you're like, they put that stupid school bus in there in episode 2? What, like, the incredible mechanics of good writers doing top quality work because they're able to, because the company is allowing them to, is like, that's an exciting avenue, but are we losing that by having multi-billion-dollar corporations have control of a more flexible creative property?
Yeah. Do you wonder if the whole multiverse thing that both groups have in their whole entire universes make it easier for that to occur?
But it was happening pre-multiverse.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
what I mean?
It was a staple, and I think the multiverse even happened as it did because it had that flexibility. Yeah. And I just feel like I hope we don't lose that because it's going to be fun to see the first Supermans come out that didn't have to ask for permission from DC Comics. Like, what are they going to do with it? I don't know. I kind of want to see like David
There's
Mitchell.
a lot of good
tackle
stuff over the
Superman.
years that have come out, which it burns me a little bit. Separate argument a little bit.
2033. So we have 10 years until Superman depicted
I'll be in
in
my prime. I'll be 44. All right, I'm ready.
Action
Yeah,
Comics
let's
#1
go.
will become public domain in 2033.
I need to read that one. Get me some ideas.
Along with other story elements such as Lois Lane and the City of Metropolis.
Okay.
This is 2033, so in 10 years. Everyone set your calendars, set your alarm clocks. It's going to go public domain, and we're going to see Tony write something. And
But
then
I wonder
just,
if the
throw
fandoms
it.
will be allowing of a non-Donner-esque Superman. Like, I mean, that's like...
if it's published, they might take it down. They might hate it.
Yeah.
But I mean, hey, you're burning my Superman novel in the street.
By the way, Batman
Thank
is...
You still had to buy it to burn it.
Tony.
Thank you.
By the way, Batman is 2034.
Oh, I know.
Mm-hmm.
I know. I'm pretty sure Detective Comics #1 was not that great, but you know, I don't know. It could be.
Kind of
Were
jumping...
you gonna say something?
Yeah. Cool.
No, I was just going to say with this topic in general, I have the same problem I had with everything, where I see it from every possible perspective.
Same.
Where, like, in the past, I used to be much more, just go with it, like get rid of all copyright, everything,
Sure.
just a free market of ideas, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And then
leaning in that direction, but go ahead.
yeah, and then at the same time, I feel like small creators really do need some form of protection. Like, you see it all the time, like, so-and-so stole my screenplay, so-and-so, and, like, if we just... Because there is the temptation to just let somebody do that, but better.
Don't you think, though, if you voided copyright for everyone, that voids the capitalist drive of creativity, which means that, if me and Christopher Nolan come up with the same idea, or not even a Christopher Nolan, let's say someone who is... we have the same or similar level of clout, and we both come up with the same idea, and somebody likes one person's idea better, or a group likes that idea better, then, do they make more money? There's no copyright to guarantee it.
I don't know. I mean...
That is a whole...
Because you know what I mean? If you give
like-
a copyright,
They still have the massive resources to advertise it and, do all this stuff.
There's a whole lot of economical discussion that probably
I was
we
going to
should
say,
not have
yeah. I
on
mean, it's one of those
podcast.
things where you can't just void copyright law and not replace it with something. You know what I mean? You have to, because it already dictates so much of. It only exists because there is a capitalist structure for it to exist within. You void one of those components, it's going to change so many different. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Guys, let's start a commune. Let's do it.
Okay.
And only read each other's work.
Only read each other's work.
Oh God.
You don't want to read my stuff. No, thanks.
Are we gonna call it Manson Ltd?
Sure.
Yeah.
That's going to be the episode that we all write little travels.
Who's going to grow the food?
I don't know how to do that.
Oh, we call it Manson Studios. You? What you mean?
I don't want to
Who?
grow it. I just want to cook it and eat it.
Oh yeah, you do have to cook it. I mean, I've got the ancestral background, and all I gotta do is, grab a hoe and summon them. It's fine. It'll work.
I was going to say my only farming...
You see these like spectral forms rise up out of the fields.
Everybody struggling with white guilt listening to this just shrieked. Like, oh my God.
I don't know. I don't understand what you mean, Tony. Can you explain that further?
I feel like it's on you to explain to us.
Maybe I'll just ask this.
Hold on. Let me like shine my whiteness a little bit.
Oh my God.
Maybe I'll just
Polish
ask
it.
the jar question and save
Let's
everybody.
go with that. Let's go with that.
Okay.
Wait, but we have a few minutes left. Just
Okay.
and then we'll go into that. Did anyone have favorites? Like things that really quick. I want to plug Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey.
Oh God, why are you plugging that trash?
Just because
The fact that it exists, I love, but I don't think it looks good.
Right. If it was good, I'd be okay with it.
But has anything come
Last
benefited
year,
from entering public domain that you've really appreciated?
yes, but nobody will know it for a few years because I haven't written it yet.
Oh.
Last year, no, seriously, last year, the day that Winnie the Pooh went up, because Twitter was losing their minds, I had the most incredible brainwave, and I thought, if I can make that work, this could be as big. All right, I'll do it. But I have to wait until next year because that's when I get to use Tigger. So
Yeah, I forgot about that.
I don't need Tigger to make it work, but it's nice to have
It'd
the room
be
to
nice
use
to have Tigger.
so that I can just use the whole group. And I'm telling you, y'all ain't ready. I'm not even ready. Like,
I'm ready.
It's there.
I'm
I've
ready.
already started working on it, but I'm
ready.
just like,
Is it Pooh and the gang go to World War One?
oh, no, God, no.
No!
And why is this like those Three
Why?
Stooges movies of like the 50s?
I will say that
You mean Hercules?
I will say that I am aggressively making trans children happy and aggressively making anti-trans people not happy at all
I
by
love
messing
that
with a
for you.
fundamental book of children's
Right.
literature. And I will be aiming it at the UK because they have a real trans problem. So tough luck.
I'll give you one idea. Don't keep it or throw it away.
Sure.
Winnie the Pooh in the trenches. The mustard gas is coming, and somebody says the mustard gas is coming, and he says, "Mustard, like honey mustard." Then it just ends very sad.
Oh God, that's
As he's climbing the ladder.
I have to get to the honey.
that's
And is this where he sheds all of his outfit and runs like naked bear?
he's already naked because we can't use clothed Winnie the Pooh for another like 15 years.
Maybe he's like,
Yeah, because the red shirt is Disney.
yeah.
So, and not even their, I don't say, it's not their first Winnie the Pooh either. It's a TV show.
Because they couldn't have a naked bear in there.
They had him in the original Winnie the Pooh movie, the animated movie. He was just like he was. Wait, no, he wasn't. Anyway, probably because they're gonna have a naked bear. So yeah.
I think Aaron's broken.
All right, you got 6
Why
minutes.
did you make me listen to that with my ears?
What else are you gonna listen to?
This question from the jar. Would you rather?
Oh. Thank you, Megan.
Actually, this one isn't as bad, but I thought it was cute, especially with the topic. So,
Okay.
would you rather forget all your favorite series and discover them all over again, or remember all the details of every book you've ever read?
I already had the second problem, so
I would go with the first.
I would love the first.
I think the first would be great.
If I could discover the Mortal Instruments all over again as if I'd never read them, I would.
I mean, the real question is...
Or Harry Potter.
I think the real question is if you forgot all of your favorite series and then discovered them all over again, would you still consider them your favorite at that point? Because you're at a different time period.
Maybe.
When that
That's
question finished,
interesting, yeah.
I wanted to jump in and say, like, if I were to forget a lot of my favorite series, and we could extend this to books, TV shows,
everything.
movies.
Yeah.
There's a lot of garbage out there that I love because of nostalgia.
Yeah, you know what? Every time that comes up, I just am not that person. I'm nostalgic about real life. I get over being nostalgic about like favorite stories pretty quickly because the crafts person in me goes, Darkwing Duck, you're cute for 15 seconds. How did I get through so many episodes of this? This is terrible.
But I contend though, if you Star Wars is an example.
I think it's just really good. I think it's solid.
Yeah, but if you
there's
forgot
a
it all...
nostalgic foundation upon which your love of the franchise.
Not for me.
Rests.
I think for many people that's true, and I've seen it and I've heard it and I understand that. Not for me.
It's a hard to really argue topic, but like I would bet, and like Batman is a similar thing.
I would say that it doesn't blow my mind the way that it did when I first saw it, because it can't. But it still holds up. It does everything it's supposed to do. Whereas Indiana Jones, oddly enough, gets better with time. I don't know how that happens.
I don't know about that.
Certain ones do.
Yeah, they just do. I'm like, how is Raiders
I think the even number
better?
Hope for the fifth because the even number entries in that franchise trifling. And I even have fondness for the Temple of Doom.
I love Crystal Skull. I know
But
everyone
it's-
hated it, but I love it.
There are things to like in that movie,
Yeah,
but I
really
don't like
like
it as a...
I really liked it. But
Anyways.
you know, I thought they were a little clumsy about revealing that was his son because we're like, yeah, we know that already. Why are you making this a scene? But aside from that, I liked the movie. You know,
I have one more.
Yes.
And I'm about to murder everyone's brain. You have a crossover between the last show you watched and the last video game you played. What would this monstrosity be called?
girl, that's easy. It's called Young Justice Gotham Knights. That just makes the game more fun. Because I
is
get
the
to be
last
Superman.
Well, would that be Handmaid's Cart or Mario?
Mario's Handmaids. Mario's Handmaids.
Would it be? It would be like Mario's one of the commanders in Gilead.
Oh,
Is it the
that's dreadful.
Princess Peach. Well, would she be a handmaid or would she be the wife of a commander?
Wait, who?
No,
Princess Peach.
she would not, because you have to consider within that realm is Bowser's kids. So like Wendy, is she a handmaid or is she a commander's wife?
So my crossover would be it would be an unholy combination between BoJack Horseman and the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind. So like, you are the Nerevarine, BoJack. You have to come save the country.
Oh no! Oh, and it's BoJack. Oh yeah, that just.
He'd take some convincing, I'm sure. So.
How far are you in?
Like 4 episodes. So I can't speak on it that much. But
BoJack taking some. That is the largest understatement that you will make in 2023. I can promise you that,
Aaron?
and you will know.
Oh, mine was just Bungo Stray Dogs and Genshin Impact. That
Okay,
just means my
yeah.
characters that have superpowers now have to solve crime, which makes it even more hilarious.
That's never been done in any plot ever.
It just actually makes it more hilarious because there is a character in there that is considered the Dark Knight of the town, and he comes out only at night to come. He's basically Batman, but for the town.